And so you see, we have many folks visiting us today. Didn't you feel that change? A word of welcome to those that are here with us for the first time or the first time in a long time. And incidentally, those seated in these first four pews, they are my pilgrim family. A good number of them are from CCOP, Pleasanton, and others are from elsewhere. I love them. Welcome. It's good to have you with us. And what do we say as a community? Good. The gospel of the day with the parable of the vineyard is a very difficult one, hard to digest, much less to embrace. It just doesn't feel right, does it? And yet, when our deacon said, the gospel of the Lord, the good news of the Lord, all of us said, thanks be to God. And if I were to take a straw vote here, let's be honest. How many agree with this parable? Can I have a show of hands? Okay, in case you are indecisive, how many disagree with the parable? Come on, guys, take a stand. We all have a sense of fairness. We have our own ways of saying something is good, something is not so good. And that is where this parable comes into play. All of us have jobs, or many of us here have had jobs in the past. And we know how that works out, how it plays out in our day-to-day life. We qualify ourselves, we gain a little experience, we put in a lot of hard work, show plenty of loyalty, and we built up a network for our company, and we end up with a fat salary. Right? And that's the way it goes. And it's so right. Now, pause for a while and visualize this scenario. The company that you work for decides to recruit more hands. And they go to the colleges and universities and recruit newbies with no experience. And they are all the time looking around for greener pastures. And so there is no loyalty. They look at the clock and work. Clock watches. And here comes the bummer. The company decides to give them your salary. How do you feel about it? Devalued? Unappreciated? And you cry foul? And you want to say, that's not fair. I'm with you. It shouldn't be that way. We all have a sense of fairness. We know what it means to play just. Now, put that aside and visualize this scenario. Timothy has a play, a drama written out on the basis of this particular parable. And he speaks of two brothers, John and Philip. John, and both of them are twins. John is able-bodied, muscular, handsome, tall. And he and his brother are waiting to be handpicked by the landowner. And the brother Philip, due to an unfortunate accident, has lost his right arm. Only one arm. Naturally, the landowner picks John right away, and he goes off to work. And John keeps looking back at his brother. Will my brother not get picked up? I want my brother to have a job. The next wave of workers come in. No sign of Philip. The second wave of workers are brought in. He doesn't spot his brother. The third and the fourth. And finally, at the last minute, 1 hour before the bell, his brother comes in, hired. And John is grateful that his brother can go home with some money. It's pay time. The ones who came in last are brought in first, and they receive the usual daily wage. And Philip is thrilled. And the next batch comes and they receive the same. And they look at Philip and grumble, that single-armed guy, he did practically no work and he's made equal to me. And it is John's turn to come for the wages. And he puts out his hand, not like this, but like this, to the landlord and says, "Thank you for being generous with our family. Thank you for being so very generous with my brother. We are grateful." My sisters and brothers, when you see another, a sister, a brother, coming for what you have, and you feel that he is coming to share a piece of your pie, does your eye turn green with envy and jealousy? Or do you look at that person, that woman, or that man, and recognize in that person your sister and your brother? This is how I understand the gospel of the day. The landowner, who is a stand-in for God, looks at all those workers and sees them as part of his family. And he gives them all the usual daily wage. He's generous to all. Not treating all equally, but to each according to his need. That is the way God would deal with us. As a mother would dish out meal. To the little one, a piece of pie, and to the biggest, a larger piece. That doesn't mean she's treating them unequally or that she's playing favorite, but to each according to his or her need. Because God sees us as his own, he treats us all alike. And he asks us today, what you experience from me, can you not go out and express? What you taste from my hands, can you not let the other taste from you? I have been generous with you. Why can't you be generous with the other? When I put it that way, it seems agreeable. But here comes the bummer. Today, the 24th of September, is a World Day for Migrants and Refugees. You and I came in early. I came 20 years ago when conditions were so different. Not as a refugee, much less as a migrant. I came in as a missionary on the religious quota, R1 visa. And guess what? You embraced me as your own. And you took me as family. And some of you love me to death. I will always be grateful for that. But as not a migrant or a refugee, but in all probability I will fall under the former category, migrant. I look at the plight of so many in the world today, in France, in Great Britain, in Italy, at our borders. So many fleeing from their homeland because of violence. Their houses are burned, their families massacred. There is genocide in so many places. They leave behind their savings. They leave behind their family. The whole family cannot travel. And they come as refugees or migrants. And how do we see them? Do our eyes turn green with envy and jealousy, or do they turn red with anger and uncertainty and suspicion and eventually hatred. The second reading of the day tells us, for me to live is Christ and death is gain. And Paul would conclude, above all, choose lives, live lives worthy of the gospel values. I ask myself, what should I do in this situation? Pope Francis has some strong things to say about how we treat our refugees and immigrants, how we need to reach out. You may ask me, Father William, so many thousands are at the door, at our borders. What is the solution? I do not know, honestly. But don't you think if we see them as family, we will find a way out of this mess? I don't have a solution to it, but I want to be part of the solution. And the reality is that if you and I are not part of the solution, we are unwittingly, unwillingly, unknowingly part of the problem. If you forget all that I told you, I wish you would remember just this. The landowner, as standing for God, looks at all the workers as family, as his own, and gives them what they need in the form of a daily wage. And he invites us to see everyone as our sister and brother. It's hard to do. It is challenging. It is sacrificial. But that is what we are called to do. To conclude, Khalil Gibran, an Iranian poet and mystic, someone that I love, would say, if people sit on the clouds, they will not see these petty borders and frontiers. And he would ruminate and say, the pity is that so few sit on the clouds. Something in me tells me that God is always sitting on the clouds. And he sees no boundary, no frontier. He sees us all as his own and embraces us as his family. And that is why he treats us all alike, giving us what we need. And so, I ask you, I ask myself, what does God expect from me today? How does he want me to be a part of this solution to this problem? Can I see with the eyes of God and not let my eyes turn green with envy and jealousy? Can I look upon a woman and a man and recognize them as my sister and brother, as my family? Then the problem begins to sort itself out. A solution can be born from that recognition, from that embracing. The church is not just an institution. The church is not merely an organization, much less is church a building. The church is organic. It is the body of Christ, where it looks upon the other and recognizes the other as oneself, as Christ. I pray that we may be able to look upon one another and recognize in the eyes of the other Christ, our sister, our brother.